African, Fridays at 6:30 EST, with your hosts Michael Seville and Joel Simmons. A channel whose focus is liberty. A place where the lessons discussed and taught will create openings to a more open and freer mindset. A mindset where you may reach the height of your potential and excel. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joel.
Oh, man. All right, y'all.
So as of last week, guys, if you didn't catch the episode, it'd be better if you just rewind it and caught the episode, even if you go back and watch the last 5 to 7 minutes in regards to the conversation we're having, which I think is a poignant conversation to have. Even, guess what? It's Black History Month. Or is it African American History Month? I don't know. But it's one of them. And so this is an interesting conversation to have, especially in regards to we're talking about Black males. Yeah. So let's say males, that covers the gamut from being young all the way to old. As of the last conversation, my thought process is the amount of trauma that we possess. A lot of us have post-traumatic stress disorder. Right. And everyone goes through traumas in life. So I don't want to discount anyone's traumas. But we're talking about war-like symptoms of how we're coming up and how we're raised, how we have to maneuver, especially at a young age. Some of the things we have to teach ourselves to be aware of, even as careful as we are. You still have to be aware of certain things. So the brother Joel said that he walked into a supermarket or he was in some you said she was by the salad bar or something, and was looked at you crazy, and it's not her, it's the narrative that's pushed, because she's never, more than likely never really came into contact or sat down and had a conversation with a Black male, but because the narrative already precedes us. And you know what's the most interesting thing is that we often think the same thing of each other. Oftentimes we think the same thing of each other. It comes to our mind as well. This is how much is implanted within our brain, right? This is the narrative. This is, God bless the dead. Kevin Samuels spoke about it. When you're not in control of your own narrative, right? When was the last time it was painted a certain kind of direction? I know there's different tropes in societies in regards to different groups, but our trope is being violent, over-sexualized, deceitful, bad fathers, whatever, and it goes ahead of us. So we have to be cognitive of these things, and being cognitive of it, brother, is the more so reason why a lot of us, and just in general, need to have conversations, and not just conversations, probably even do some healing around the matter. Right? I've been on the last, I don't know, year and a half, definitely in the last 3 to 6 months, talking about the healing of, from ancestral trauma. And part of that is to heal us for moving forward, right, with our children, but going back specifically, healing in regards to fathers. Because I think the healing of it's so easy because of the conversation and the culture. It's so easy, and I'm talking about Western culture now. It's so easy for people to discount the men in society, right? Because because you're supposed to be resilient as a man. You're supposed to smile and grit through it. You're supposed to power through it. And I think that does a huge disservice to a lot of men in society, because we need to heal as well. We need to get a lot of these things out. What do you say, brother?
Man, you talking, this is real, and when you go back, it's like, all right, so sometimes I don't even talk so much about this stuff, but listen, go back and read the Willie Lynch letter.
Yeah.
Read the Willie Lynch letter, because like you got titles in there like "Let's Make a Slave," carnal principles for making a Negro, breaking process of African women, this is what was going on, destroying the male image, putting fear out there, creating mental weakness and dependency, you know, stripping men of physical, being physically strong, you know. And so there was a lot of things that were done, that were taught, you know, in that letter that actually happened, you know, before the civil rights movement. This stuff was happening so that the black man would never feel that he had power. He would always feel that he was inferior, and that the black woman would not be able to trust her man. She wouldn't be able to ever trust him. She would never think that he would be able to protect her or to raise her children. She'd never think that, because they'll go and they'll take a black man and they'll rip him from his crotch all the way around to his backside and leave him hanging there and let him air dry. And this is the type of stuff that would happen. Cut his manhood off in front of everybody and then tell everyone, go back to work. Y'all go back. Ain't nothing to see here. Go back to work. And so when you start talking about what you're saying, brother, when you start talking about these, you know, these centuries of these thought processes that's inside the mind, you know, it's like that is what has been passed on, you know. And so now when you see a black man walk into a location and a black man just wants to be equal, quote unquote equal, and you get people that respond to you in fear. It's like, what is going on? I'm wearing the same clothes as you today. I got the same clothes on, you know. I shop at the same store, you know. I'm running the exact same race. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna say something right now that may be controversial. I know it may be controversial. And there's two different sides to this coin, and I can run with it either which way, but right now I want to use a specific side. When we as black people rise up and say, hey, listen, I want my own, give me my own station that only play black, you know, all this stuff. It's like, let me compete where everybody is. I'm just as great. I don't need to beat only black men to the top. Don't just put me in a race where there's only black men. Don't just put me in a job where there's only just black men. But I do want equal deserves at the end of the day. You know, if the white guy can get a cherry on top, so can I. And listen, I'm going to tell you something. Some of my best friend, black guy. Jonathan Gluck, best friend, white guy, Jewish. Julian Silvas, best friend, Mexican guy. So when it comes down to it, it's like I got this array. Alain Borges, I love that dude, Cuban. You know, I'm just shouting these names out. Maybe they'll look at it. Todd Graham, he's just a straight up white guy, American diver. Love that guy. You know, listen, when it comes down to it, you just got to be human. And that's the thing, Mike. And I'm going to say this one little piece, and this is going to shift gears from black. I'm going to shift gears from black because I want people to know, just like Anna, this thing might even touch Anna. Because the thing is like, we are living in a time right now where it's not just black versus white like it may have been a few years back, but it's going to be old against young. There's a huge generational gap. And that whole black thing and black male thing and black female thing that's in the middle, oh man, it ain't nothing but mud now. Yeah, it's mud. It just can't see nothing. Don't dip your head in it. Can't see nothing.
So when you say mud, explain, clarify that. But I know clarifying mud, but clarify that statement that it's just mud. What do you mean?
What I mean by that is that there's such a generational gap where young people don't have a clue what older people understand. You know, this 20, 30-year gap is mind-blowing. And what young people are doing today is nowhere near even our generation. I'm gonna call you and me within 5 years. There's nowhere near what we were even doing, because number one, cell phones weren't even running. Cell phone. Number two, when the cell phone came out in our generation, you had to have a lot of money to have one. Number three, We were already of age by the time the first iPhone actually showed up and gave you internet in your hand. Internet came out like 1993, somewhere around that, in the mid 90s. By that time, I was already like 15 years of age. And what am I going to do with this $1,000 thingamabob that my mama can't even afford? Nothing. Internet's not even entering into houses. But now every single child has that thing when they're born. They're born with the cell phone in their hand. They're able to access anything. And parents nowadays, in our day, Mike, when our parents got cell phones, what they use it for? Make a phone call. But now some of the parents that are now 20 and 30 years of age, what do they use it for? Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, social media, dating, apps, Tinder, whatever. They got all that stuff. So now you and I, when we came forward and got onto the cell phones, we're like, look at this mastery. We can use this for business, acquisition you were talking about. We can do all this different type of stuff. Plus we can use it for fun stuff. Okay, woo, this is great. But look at the next generation coming after us. We don't want all that stuff. Y'all old heads. Just give me the social media. Teach me how to get with a girl. Teach me how to get with a guy. Teach me how to do stuff that give me access to stuff that I've never been able to get access to, like porn. Give me that access. I want it. Give it to me. I can handle it. I'm only 12, but it's okay. Whole new level.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. That part, it's interesting how you went through all of this. I want everybody to follow this train of thought, because this is critical thinking at its highest. So the brother started off with the Willie Lynch letter, right? So from the Willie Lynch letter, if you look into it, just a broad overview, he gave it to you, but even broader overview is it's a division amongst people. It's a division. We're dividing. We're divided, men from women, and even old from young, light skin from dark skin, et cetera, et cetera. That same type of thought process, because really, when you think about it, it's just divide and conquer. It's even now into 2023. This letter was written back in slavery days. So now even into 2023, we have a similar division. And it's even more broad. I mean, I think there was always division between different generations, from the silent generation to the baby boomers to the Yers, Xers, and millennials, etc. But it's so broad. I actually think us, brother, like definitely the millennials, which is my generation, because we kind of saw it morph into what not final form, but the iteration it is now, is that it's we kind of understand, because we still were outside, but now we have this as well. And don't get me wrong, social media we're going to read about the study and research they've done on it, 50, 60, 70 years from now about what had occurred. I definitely think there's going to be rehabilitation for social media in about 40, 50 years. But the older people aren't leaving the workforce. And some of that is whether they can or they just don't want to, right? A lot of older folk, when I'm talking about the 60s, they're in their 60s and 70s, they have no plan on retiring. And they're taking up a lot of different jobs. And then you have the younger folks who can't really get those jobs. So there was a study done. I wish I could bring it up. There was a study done that showed that it went from 1940s all the way up to about 2020 or 2010. And it showed how the wages for the younger people were going down. At one point they were surpassing their parents. It's at the point where the younger people aren't surpassing their parents. So, let me bring all this back, because I think we need to talk about some solutions here. So here's a couple of different solutions. You guys know I sell houses. Like, that's my thing. I sell real estate. I wish you all would buy real estate. However you can get your hands on it, whatever. A lot of millennials can't. The younger generation can't at this point, because we see what's going on with inflation. We see what's going on with the rise of homes. But we don't want to live or be with our parents. And listen how crazy this sounds coming from a real estate guy. I'm telling a lot of the folks, you might need to move back in with your parents. Or you might need to move your parents in with you, either or, in regards to figuring out how can we get our finances together. Then you can start talking about financial literacy. Let's go all the way back to the healing portion of it. Because if you hate your parents, then I guess that's an impossibility, right? But we're talking about 4 to 5 years of going back and living with family, getting your stuff together, helping out with the family, and then starting to and then be fruitful and multiply. Because you can't be, it's tough to be, let me not say you can't. It's tough to be fruitful and multiply when you work in a bunch of jobs and you're not getting no further than you were last week. You're barely getting anywhere. You work 6 months straight, you're burned out. You take a vacation, you spend all the money you had, or you spend money that you didn't have, and you're back at these same jobs working these crazy shifts because you all are working. I'm not saying because I definitely believe you all are working, but we need to start to put together sometime. We need to make the adjustment to what's going on, or you can't get ahead, right? That's what this is about. This internet and technology came through like a whirlwind. It's that time when we start to think about, giving up some of these free, so quote unquote freedom, because it's not real. This is not, a lot of stuff that we're doing is not really freedom, because you can't be freedom and contained by what it is that you can do. That's just being in containment, man. So it's very important. I want to talk about I'm telling you so much things, and I know we're heading into our time, but there's like really 3 stealers of wealth, and I'm going to specifically talk about our community. There's 3 stealers of wealth in the community. The first one is jail, right? We talking about jail is a huge, and it's an industry. You put in there. So when you take one faction out of the community, they happen to be the men who are known to be the providers at the time. You take one piece of the income out. What does that do for the rest of the people left? The single mothers, the children, etc. You can't get ahead. Number 2, we got to figure out this whole family court system thing. Because when now you're not going to jail, but now you're splitting the 2 households. Now the funds are, now you have to spend money twice because of lack of sense of duty. Like it's twice. And the third one is ignorance of financial literacy, ignorance of how to deal with taxes, ignorance of how to invest your money versus spending your money, ignorance about the education. The brothers running a free
financial literacy classes
on Saturdays in the community, paid by your community, and we not showing up in droves to get that information, right? So those are the 3 stealers of wealth, and if one resonated with you, you need to kind of think about it and how we can start to correct that stuff. How we can get these brothers who are coming back home, hopefully, and getting them to be upstanding citizens of society. How do we do that? With the second one, with the family court system, how do we figure out, like, man, how are we gonna keep this money within the family? Because at the end of the day, especially if you have kids, it's not about you anymore. To me, anyways, right? Like you got to start thinking about. You got to start thinking forward. The lastly is the financial literacy. You got the brother over there talking about financial. We're talking about insurance. We're talking about real estate. We're talking about taxes. We're talking about investments into yourself, because that's the best ROI you're gonna get is when you invest in yourself.
Yes.
Like these are the solutions that we have to start thinking about. And if any of these things resonate with you, you need to take pause and really start to figure out, like, how do we get back to being that thriving community? Before 1950, we were that thriving community. We have less wealth in 2023 as a community than we had in 1950 and 60s. That doesn't make sense. $5,500 is the net worth versus $180,000. If you had just bought a house, you would have had, if you bought a house 10, 15, 20 years ago, you would have had that.
Yeah, and the thing about it, Mike, is how many people, as soon as they see the new thing come out on a TV set, they go out to go buy it. Like, what are the statistics, Mike, about the average Black individual and how much they actually spend? Because I don't care where you are, you go to the projects, you go you go to black neighborhoods, whatever, you're gonna see people with Jordans, the brand new Jordans. My little boy, he wants, he wants, when he does his chores, he wants to take his money to go get shoes. I'm like, whatever, man. I'd rather get you shoes than a video game. But I know that the little $15 I'm gonna give him is not gonna pay for the shoes that he wants. Because the shoes he wants, he showed me, and they're $1,000. You gotta be out of your last mind. You think I'm gonna buy $1,000 pair of shoes? He gonna be saving for a long time. Huh?
Were they the Travis Scotts? Is that what they were?
Yeah. How you know exactly what it is? You know.
Elijah showed them to me. Elijah showed them to me as well. I'm not gonna lie, I just spent $175 on some shoes for Elijah. And I said
1.8 trillion. Is that what you put?
That's what the black are expected to spend projected to spend by 2024. $1.8 trillion.
And we don't have look at the billionaire list. There's not a lot of blacks on the billionaire list. Not a whole
$1.8 trillion is going somewhere. Oh man, brother. I know our time. What's our time looking like? Because I know
we done, man. We supposed to be in the next season. Y'all had to come back next time. Not next season, next week. We'll see you.
We'll see you.